Mixing as quick as possible or taking your time? Let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBuzz TV mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube. Before we start, make sure you join us on Facebook and Twitter if you didn't already to stay updated with upcoming uploads, giveaways, posting questions, and get all the news about the channel and what's coming up. But let's dive into the subject of the day, mixing quickly or taking your time. How long a mixing engineer takes to mix a song depends on many factors. First of all is track count. Pretty much anyone takes a lot less time to mix a 20-track song than a song that has 120 tracks. But with that said, I'm pretty sure you're aware that some mixing engineers are faster than others, and I'm also sure you heard many times people preaching that you have to get your mix done as quickly as possible because in that way you keep yourself objective, your ears fresh, and so on. While that appears to make some sense, for the most part, I think is bullshit. To try to force yourself to be quick when you don't have a close deadline is only gonna hurt your mixes. Let me explain why I think that and why that concept of mixing as fast as possible is flawed. There is a reason because some engineers take a long time to mix a song, and that is obviously because they get better results by doing so. If they could do the same in less time, they would. As you probably guessed, I'm among those engineers that take their time to mix a song. I can take up to a whole week to mix a song or even more with a new artist that I'm not familiar with, or if I have to switch between wildly different genres. I have to decompress my ears and my feelings if I mix songs that are very different genres. So let's see what the mix quickly approach preaches. You keep a fresh perspective and fresh ears. Really? How? I happen to be involved in other fields outside of my career as a mixing and mastering engineer, and in those fields I have to be scientific. No time, no room for bullshit and bro science. And that approach also carry over my mixing and mastering approach to some extent. So let's analyze the mix quickly approach. Best case scenario, you are just a mixer, as I am on 80% of my project, which is a good thing to start with because you didn't listen to the song while the artist composed it, arranged it, and recorded it. So in this best case scenario, you are the one that has the most objective perspective on the song. Then let's say it's a basic track with drums, either electronic or acoustic, bass, synths, guitars, vocals, background vocals, and a handful of tracks of your choice, whether it's an EDM mix or a rock or hip-hop mix, for a very conservative total of 50 tracks. Now, I've heard some nonsense like mixing in an hour. Let's see what really happens in the first hour when you A, didn't already mix the track before, B, is not a track you wrote, C, is not a track you recorded all the instruments yourself, because if that's the case, you tell me how the fuck you can be objective and have fresh ears on it. Anyways, the first thing I and many engineers do is to learn all the parts and all the instruments, at least be aware of what you have and what they do and what comes in and when, right? So let's say, depending on track count, I have to play the song maybe 6 or 10 times, either top to bottom or sections. So you start listening to the tracks and or the rough mix. Good. At 3-4 minutes song, by 10 is roughly 40 minutes. That's what happens in the first hour. Being super optimistic, we say we proceed with levels and pans, super basic stuff, while we learn the parts and instruments and do some basic bussing. I say we are at the 1 hour mark already, and we didn't do pretty much anything at this point. I always start with the drums, so let's stay conservative and give it 12 to 16 tracks. By the time I have done basic EQ and levels, I probably listened to the song another 6 times. This was just the drum. 12 to 16 tracks. Let's go quickly and do the same for all the remaining 30-35 tracks. Now I listen to the song another 10 times. So just for level and basic EQ, in the best case scenario, I already listened to the song 20 to 30 times. How anyone in their right mind can possibly think that you have a fresh perspective at this point, or fresh ears? It is just not possible. If you know anything about human brains and how our ears work, it's just not possible. And you haven't done anything. No dynamics, no effects, no parallel anything, no special busing, no cool ideas, no trying things. You didn't dig into the low end and the interaction between kick and bass and vocals and guitars and synths. None of that. And you heard the song that many times already. And not just casually, but in an analytic state of mind. Because you had to learn it and then proceed with the basic first moves. By the time you are halfway the mix, you probably listened to it at least 50 times. And I'm purposely being conservative here because the reality is much different. My last mix had over 120 tracks, the one before over 70. So this is the main reason why I think the mix quickly to keep perspective and fresh ears is bullshit. Now, with that said, you need to commit and move on and pay attention to the most important elements in the mix first and get those done in a reasonable time frame. Like we said in one of our popular video, don't let fuck around doughties blunt your work and your inspiration. But also, don't be lazy. Take the time to do some things right, like automation, effects, checking phase on various things. Something you can be quick. But a lot of things in a mix, especially with a high track count, take time. And if you try to rush it, well, you're most likely are going to do a poor job. That's the reality of things. One thing that I agree with is that we need to keep ourselves as objective as possible because we do get used to our mix sounds. Even if we reference it with other material, we get used to the differences. We get used to the flaws in our mix. So be quick to decide what you need to take care of first. Be quick to fix what doesn't work because otherwise you'll get used to it. So what can we do to keep an objective and fresh perspective when we mix? Something that I do myself and I advise you to try is to get yourself an old school piece of paper and a pen and write notes on the very first pass of the song. The very first time you listen to it. If you have skills and talent as a mixing engineer and you have good ears, in that very first pass, your brain will be able to catch what works and what doesn't right away. So you have to trust your guts, to trust your very first impression that you have when you listen either to the rough mix or the raw tracks. Write down everything that either catch your attention in a good way or in a bad way, and trust those very first impressions. So this way is how I keep my perspective objective, by having my very first reaction written down. And my advice is to manually write them down with a pen, because by doing that, at least for me, they'll stick in your memory. You won't even need to look at the paper later on, because just by writing them down manually, you will stamp those first impressions in your mind. At least that's how it works for me, and mine is obviously just an advice, so try it. If it works, take it. If not, leave it. Of course, every engineer has his way, and whatever works is the rule. And that's why I always tell you, hey, look, this is just an advice. This is just my way, and not, hey, this is the way to do it. Now, the argument here is going to be, well, some engineers are fast and they get good results. Yes, but let's analyze why they are fast. By taking, for example, the most famous fast mixing engineer, Chris Lord-Alge, he stated many times how fast he is and how quickly he gets the mixes done. Now, the very first thing to say, obviously, is he's one of the top mixing engineers in the world. He's been doing this for decades, and also he's paid quite well, so there's that. But other than that, he has an assistant who preps his mixes. And we know from various interviews, I've never been in a mixing session with him, so I base my description here on the public information we have, but also on logic. He never touches the mix until it's spread on his console. So we are talking about 48 tracks. 48 tracks aren't so many. So 100, 120 tracks mix get stamped, summed, and reduced to 48 tracks by his assistant. Now that's already a big jump, ain't it? Plus, he more often than not mixes very similar genres, and he's known for his sonic imprint. That's what made him so popular and so requested. But we gotta say this, his mixes are not so different from one another. And why would they? I mean, that's the type of sound he's known for and requested for, so he sticks to it, obviously. Mine is not a criticism. But that definitely helps with being quick. He has his hardware set up and he doesn't really change his settings on his hardware that much, according to his own words. He runs things pretty much in the same way, on the same channels, on the same chains. Not saying that's bad. Again, that's actually why he's so consistent with his mixes. But again, that speeds up the process for sure. I, for example, mix extremely different genres every week, every month, every day. I go from metal to pop to acoustic ballads to EDM constantly, so often and so quickly that my last mix I had to take 2 days off because I was coming from a big fat metal mix, going into a female acoustic ballad mix, and on the first day I fucked up. The female ballad has this huge punchy fat low end, which was totally inappropriate for the genre, so I had to decompress. I had to listen to casual stuff, decompress from my previous mix and start fresh. Could I have done it quickly and not take the 2 days off? Yes, if I had to. I have my ways. But would the result came out better than if I took my time like I did? No, and so the solution for me is when I can, I always schedule my mixing jobs according to the time I know I need to get the best result I can. Of course, sometimes it's not possible. You have clients and you have deadlines, so you got to move your ass. But when I can, again, I rather take my time. Wrapping this up, some things in mixing take a long time. You can rush them if you need to. You better be able to do it because often you have clients with deadlines and you have to get the job done by the end of the day or whatever it is. But if you can, don't rush them. If you mix your own stuff especially, it's completely pointless to try to be quick on purpose. It's your song. You probably listened to it a billion times already because you wrote it or recorded it and arranged it. Instead, focus on comparing your mix, your rough mix, to other reference tracks and commercial mixes. Take a break from the mix and casually listen to some other stuff, not related at all with it, different genres. Then go back to your mix the next day or after a long break and see how you feel about it. And like I said, my advice is to take notes the very first time you either listen to the song or if it's yours, the very first time you compare your rough mix against a reference track. So this is it for this podcast, really. I hope it was useful. I hope you got something out of it. If you liked the video, please don't forget to click the like button. It's very important. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What's your way to keep a fresh perspective when you mix? Please support MixBuzz TV by sharing our videos on social media, forums, blogs, personal pages, and so on. Join us on Facebook and Twitter to stay in touch with us. Post your questions, stop by and say hi and get all the news on upcoming videos and series. Subscribe if you haven't already and see you next time.